Hello, I'm Michael Melfi, a partner at Taylor English, and today I'm joined by Mitzi Hill, and we're going to be discussing some of the cyber issues that we're facing today in the world. Mitzi, thanks for joining us.
Glad to be here, thanks.
And so, as we get started this, Mitzi, do you mind sharing a little bit about, obviously people are reading the news, they know what's going on with some of these proposed or potential Russian cyber attacks. Man, maybe just share a little bit about yourself and at the highest level, just maybe talk a little more about what's going on out there in the climate today.
Sure. So I am also a partner at Taylor English, which is a law firm in Atlanta with a national footprint. I head up our data privacy and security group. It's a group I started when I came to Taylor English in 2014. I am now in my 28th year of practice as a technology lawyer. I started at a large law firm in Atlanta, spent about 15 years in-house at a global media company, global media and telecommunications company, and have now been at Taylor English for the last 9 years. And we advise small clients and large clients on privacy compliance issues, but also on planning for cybersecurity, legal exposure, and addressing any incidents they may have, otherwise known as incident response.
I think what the first thing I'd like to ask you, Mitzi, is, the White House has issued these warnings. We've seen the news come out around these threats of cyber attack by the Russians being so high. What signs are there that this is actually going to happen? I mean, is it just the White House talking, or what makes us think this is going to be something we need to be worried about?
Well, there are several things that make us think this is something to be worried about. The first is that, believe it or not, this kind of activity goes on all the time. There are always, as a matter of normal business operations and normal state intelligence operations and normal state surveillance operations, there are always entities out there looking for what are called vectors of attack, that would allow them either to get into an electronic system and steal information from it, or get into an electronic system and shut it down, or get into an electronic system and snoop around. Frequently, bad guys, whoever they are, whether they're private actors or whether they are state intelligence or other kinds of agencies, get into a network and hang around there for months undetected. One thing we do know is that this goes on all the time, and businesses are always being kind of sniffed at by bad guys.
Let me ask you, for those small businesses out there, why should they be concerned about a cyber attack on their business?
Well, you alluded earlier to the fact that large businesses, when they suffer an attack, we all hear about it, right? It makes the headlines because it usually affects us as consumers. They hold information or financial data about us or something else. That means they have to go public and start talking about it. And so we all hear about it, and that unfortunately helps, I think, create a misimpression that only big companies are vulnerable, that only big companies are the targets. And actually the inverse is true. Smaller companies, to a great degree, make better targets. And there are a lot of reasons for that. One is that smaller companies typically don't have the kind of resources available to them to monitor, defend against, and respond to any kind of cyber activity that a large company has. And so it's easier to get in, it's easier to hang around in their network and see what you can, kind of what threads you can start pulling, see whether there are any holes that get you into someone else's network. So small companies are also pathways into larger companies that might hold more valuable data or be more directly connected to something like the power grid. It's a lower barrier of entry to get into a small company, but the rewards once you are in can get you better data connection to their clients, their customers. A lot of small companies have Fortune 500s, Fortune 100s as their customers, and they may be providing services that have their networks connected or be sharing information back and forth. And so they're a great place to go mining for information about big companies, and they're a great vector of attack.
What should businesses be doing right now to protect themselves given this climate that's going on?
Well, this is actually the good news part. Because I think, especially a lot of small businesses, part of the reason they don't tackle this is they don't understand it and they think it is all high dollar legal and high dollar technology issues. And it's easier. I think a lot of them, a lot of people gamble on not having a problem and therefore never having to deal with it, rather than on spending a little bit of money and time on preparedness. Yeah. And there are some things that are really easy and not very expensive that kind of are low-hanging fruit. One of which is upgrade your software, making sure you have hardware that is current enough that can run the latest versions of those OSs, and all of your software applications is a big part of that as well. So if you are on an aging set of hardware, I'd say investing, $10,000 in new desktops is money well spent. Training your employees to understand what phishing campaigns look like and instructing them or disabling them from clicking on links that come in their emails or downloading anything to your system from the internet, like their personal calendar or their Google chat or any of that. Disabling that kind of thing can go a long way, and raising their awareness and making them understand not to do those things can go a long way as well.
I think that's great. And I think I want to reiterate, I know we touched on this, is that, what are the potential consequences of if someone decides not to take this great advice you've given them and they do have an attack? You kind of hit on that, but just because I want to make sure people really hear this. They don't take the actions, they aren't doing the things we just shared with them today, and there is a cyber attack. What could happen to their business?
Well, it depends, of course, on what their business is. But among the things I have seen with clients I have worked with is, they literally cannot run anything. They cannot communicate, the machines don't run, the network doesn't run, and so they cannot conduct business, and they are losing, uptime and business operational time with every hour that goes by. You may be open to security or other kinds of audit from your big customers who probably have that kind of right built into your agreement. So if you suffer some kind of security problem, you now may have to be willing to let them come in and inspect all your systems and make assessments about the adequacy of your systems and require you to spend money to upgrade your systems. And they are almost certainly going to set a higher standard than most small businesses would set for themselves based on their own budgets.
There's someone out there that's saying, well, this is what insurance is for, right? There's this cyber insurance. I have a rider, I have a policy. Is that an option? Is that what people should be turning to? Should everyone be running out and getting an insurance policy, or what some thoughts around cyber insurance policies?
Well, I would love it if everybody did have a cyber insurance policy. Historically, they have been very cheap insurance. They're getting more expensive because of the proliferation of attacks, particularly on smaller businesses, and the difficulty of preventing an attack. But they are still pretty good value. They can cover things like if you have to replace hardware or software that was, or data that were destroyed or impaired as part of an attack. They can cover things like lost operational time. They can cover things like contractual penalties that you have to pay to your customers, or financial penalties that you have to pay to regulators. So they are kind of modular. It's a little bit like when you buy your homeowner's insurance. If you buy the flood coverage, it doesn't include the sewer backup coverage. You have to have both pieces. But so it pays to understand who you're buying from and what your coverage includes. I wouldn't just buy a cyber policy and assume everything is okay, but they are great coverage. And I think in this day and age, a common saying among sort of cybersecurity professionals and people who do this for a living is, it's not if, it's when. Everyone is going to have is going to have an incident. You may not know you had it, or it may be paralyzing to your business. It sort of can be, the possibilities are equal. But if you have a cyber insurance policy and you're up on your premiums and you're up on whatever the underwriting requirements are as far as your own security, you'll be in a lot better position. the other thing about having a cyber insurance policy is they probably are going to require you to go through some baseline security upgrades in order to qualify for the policy. That'll be part of the underwriting process. And so you will get, if you don't know where to start on upgrading your security and your workflow, getting a cyber insurance policy is a good shortcut to some of that, because they're going to impose a set of requirements, most likely, that will force you to upgrade. And so they will kind of do a little bit of your planning for you, for lack of a better way to describe it.
I'm glad you're able to come on and share some of this wisdom. I really want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Well, until next time, my name is Michael Melfi, partner at Taylor English, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode.